You're a fraud.
You're a liberal hack.
Good afternoon, everybody, or good evening, or good morning, whatever you're listening to. It is a podcast. Welcome to episode 7 of The Hack and the Fraud. My name's Ryan. I'm joined once again by Nicholas.
Hello.
Today we will be discussing Zack Snyder's Justice League. Now, Zack Snyder's Justice League is apparently the 5th film of the DC Extended Universe. It's based on a screenplay by Chris Terrio and directed, of course, by Zack Snyder. It stars Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, Gal Gadot, Ray Fisher, Jason Momoa, and Ezra Miller as they attempt to save the world from the catastrophic threat of Darkseid, which is Ray Porter, and Steppenwolf. Steppenwolf was Kieran Hines. So there you go.
That's one, yeah.
All right.
So begins the end for Darkseid.
I've never seen a being this strong. Maybe one. He's back.
I spent a lot of time trying to divide us. I made a promise to him on his grave. I need to bring us together.
Nicholas, Justice League. This
Here
has
we
been
go.
one coming. What did you think of Justice League?
What did I think?
Yeah, will you tell
Wow.
me? Yeah, well, get started. So you've got a lot of notes there. I mean, it is a 4-hour movie. So
Yeah, I got a lot of notes and I got a big plus there for
you got a big plus.
for one of the things. I think
You got 1 plus. Oh, the rest are minuses, are they?
I hope we disagree because this is I'm ready.
I'll say
I'm
off the
ready to
bat,
come to
I
terms.
didn't dislike it.
Oh,
So at least there's that.
well, I definitely disliked it.
Oh,
So here we go. We'll get into reasons why, but that was 3
it's 4 hours.
4 hours of watching a movie I just did not enjoy at any single point. And so for me, that was not enjoyable. I cannot give this anything but a dismal score, and I'll go into why, but this is not a good movie.
Ooh.
I'm sorry,
It's
like-
hard to even just call it a movie. It's 4 hours long. I don't think I've ever watched a 4-hour movie.
It's a mini series. That's what it felt like, a mini series, but I was not like left hanging at any point. When you do a mini
Except for
series,
the
you're like,
ending, weirdly. We'll get to the ending later, but the ending was almost like my favorite scene. But anyway, go on.
well, take your pick with your favorite scene because there isn't a lot going for it. You can pick anything, and that's a fair enough favorite scene because a lot of it wasn't memorable. Tell you what my favorite scene was. So this might help you. I liked the battle to defeat the Dark Force, where it's narrated by Gal Gadot.
Yeah, like the Lord of the Rings scene.
I was going to say that actually reminded me of Galadriel.
Absolutely.
Retelling
It should have been the first scene.
I think so too. I think that retelling was very interesting. I like seeing all the different heroes. It kind of
The
reminded
Age of Heroes, yeah, I really like that with Zeus as well.
Yep.
Zeus as a hero was
Yes.
awesome.
Yeah, no, really enjoyed that. I think that was a completely separate to the movie. That scene on its own was really good. I like that in Watchmen too, when they had this sort of ancient heroes, and you look at the timeline or the time
the
span of the
opening,
hero. I
yeah.
really enjoyed that. The rest of the movie, though, I'm not going to be able to find many positives. I'll be honest. Let's get into what you liked.
What I liked about the movie, well, I liked that it was clearly a unique vision of Zack Snyder's. Like, despite the writing in the movie, that was what that let me down for me, was that the movie itself, the screenplay, I just don't know what this movie was supposed to be about, but Zack Snyder clearly has a very unique vision himself. And it's obvious.
Do you ever question why it's unique? Because no one's that like this is. I don't think it's.
Do you have a problem
point.
with the directing or the screenplay? in
I've
this
got a
movie?
problem with everything.
You didn't like what was wrong with the directing of it?
I think it was, you know why it was 3.5 hours
4
or
hours.
4 hours? Because like literally every second scene was in slow motion. And like that, it's like a movie of 2 hours was just played at 0.5 times.
Is that just the flash scenes?
No, that's a lot of scenes.
I didn't really notice
this.
this. I mean, the slow motion is a consistent criticism of Zack Snyder's. From 300
He doesn't
to
listen
Watchmen.
to it though. He doesn't listen to that criticism.
Well, I thought that this movie was toned down in the slow motion compared to his other movies. It was apart from the flash scenes, which were intentionally slow motion to show that he's
They
really
make
fast.
sense, but there are a lot of slow mo. Like every one of Wonder Woman's battle scenes were slow motion. Every one of Batman's scenes were slow motion. There was slow motion. There were countless times where slow motion. It was just. I get it when the Flash is on because that makes sense. It's like he's slowing down time. Everyone else doing it, the bloody playing the NFL game, did that need to be slow motion?
That was exactly.
Did that need to be slow motion? No,
it didn't need to be slow motion. But that was one of my favorite scenes.
Was it?
Yeah, I really liked that scene. It was beautiful.
It wasn't. It was colorless. It was drab. It was like
the snow, like the bright white snow, and like the falling in slow motion. Him, throwing them off and everything.
It was a sports movie. It was a sports scene directed by someone who doesn't get sports. It's a constant thing that happens in movies. It's like, that does not happen in sport. You don't have these things where you don't like forego physics and gravity in sports.
This is a superhero movie.
This is before he was a superhero. It was not a superhero at this point.
I know, but it's a superhero movie. Like Batman, even as Batman, shouldn't be able to do most of the things he does in this movie. But that is the movie, that is the universe that it's living in. Which I admit is kind of disappointing after watching Batman vs Superman, which is very grounded compared to this movie.
Was it? I haven't seen the Zack Snyder Batman vs Superman, but I was obviously I didn't love it. I did watch I tried to watch the Justice League, the Joss Whedon one.
Yeah, I haven't seen that
to me was that was good because it was only half an hour. Because I didn't watch it after half an hour, so time wise it was good.
So what was the opening half an hour? Were there any scenes that...
I didn't care. I was like, half an hour in, I'm not going to keep watching this movie. So I think
were there any scenes from this movie that you saw in the Joss Whedon version?
Yeah, there were quite a few.
Because I felt there was some still Joss Whedon moments, especially the Flash. I felt like the Flash was just a Joss Whedon character almost.
So this is where the film also really kind of doesn't land for me because it's such a serious tone. It's colorless. It's monotonous.
The fucking Flash.
And then... you just whenever you're consistent with a tone being so serious and so somber, you just can't, like, the humor doesn't land.
Yeah, no, none of the humor landed.
None of the humor lands. There's even this scene is funny. But when the guy says it's the hottest thing that you'll ever see, and I said this to my prom date, and she then dumped me. That's a funny line, but it's said when I say it. But it's an okay line.
Yeah,
but said
within
in this universe,
it's
like. The guy he says it to doesn't even like blink. He's just like, oh, just don't say
Shut up.
Like in the Marvel universe, that line lands because they've got a sense, they've got a different.
Well, they're action comedies. The tone is an action comedy, and literally every line from the Flash. And it's disappointing because I think Ezra Miller is actually good in the role, and I kind of get what role they were going for. Like, he's the quirky comic relief character, but you can't have that in this movie at all because. This movie is supposed to like lean into the mythology, the mythos of it. Superman is doing the Jesus pose above the planet after he rises from the dead. Like, Superman is Jesus, like all that is throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, but Jesus also never threatens to fucking burn the whole planet to the ground, does he? Like, Superman is, he's a bit of a baddie. Like,
he is in this movie, yeah. I wish they leaned into that more. He was pretty quickly redeemed to just be Superman again.
Exactly, yeah. Like, he sort of comes in and saves the day. It's interesting what they're doing with this character because he's obviously they've got the bad Superman character.
He has the black uniform as well.
Correct, yeah.
And the flash forwards to the world where...
he's destroyed the world.
Yeah, because he loses Lois Lane.
So obviously they were right in Batman vs Superman that he can't... if there's a 1% chance that it's going to happen, you got to take him down. Forget that, bring him back. He's like... I don't know. Are we going to... Is this a character that we then are meant to be on the side of and meant to be feeling good
the fact that you're thinking about this makes me... which goes to my point of... this is not a terrible movie because by the end of the movie, I want to see the continuation of this movie. I want to see what happens next. I want to see this world that Batman keeps envisioning, this future world where Superman is a villain and he's lost Lois Lane, and so he goes fucking crazy. And it's like the Justice League versus Superman. I want to see that movie, but I don't think we ever will now.
No, but I think we might, but it's different. It's like a car crash. Like when I see you can't look away in a car crash.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make it good. It doesn't make it like...
Is that how you feel about the future scenes?
Yeah, it's like...
or the whole movie?
I wouldn't watch it, but I'd be interested to see what happens because I'm like, oh, they've made a car crash on cinema.
Do you not like the idea of Superman being a supervillain?
When I think it's done really well in The Boys, the TV show.
Yeah, well, yeah. That's when the character has the powers of Superman...
yeah.
But is a dickhead rather than being a good guy. I like the idea of Superman falling from grace and becoming a villain.
it's really hard to do when Superman's like your chief, Barbie doll mascot kind of thing that kids are going to go home and grab, and then all of a sudden,
But that's not what
you're a
Zack
bad
Snyder's universe is. Zack Snyder's universe is saying "fuck you" to that image of
guy. I don't know
Superman.
if he is though.
Well, he wants to be, and Batman vs Superman brought that to the fore more than this movie. This movie was a disappointment after Batman vs Superman, I will say, but I definitely didn't dislike it as much as you did.
So that's one point with the humor. I just think it's stylistic kind of nonsense in a bit. Like it's a lot of.
You're not about the style in general.
Yeah, the style. I know it's worked in the past. It really works for 300 because
And Watchmen.
it sort of and Watchmen. But 300 works because it's basically like taken directly from a comic book and displayed as such. That's why that style really works.
And that's what he's trying to do with this movie. And I think that's what he's trying to do with the 4:3 aspect ratio. And I think the vast majority of scenes are sort of meticulously planned out to look like comic book panels.
Oh, no, because there's no color. There's just like, there's
That's
nothing
the only thing.
that's popping off the page.
But that's
It's
DC
really-
versus Marvel. The DC comics are not colorful in the same way.
Are they? Okay, well, that's.
Yeah, I know. But this
Okay.
movie, watching it, I thought DC fans would fucking love it. And I think if Marvel didn't exist, these movies would be rated a lot higher. Because this does seem like, okay, Steppenwolf is kind of cheap, or Darkseid is cheap Thanos, and it kind of feels like cheap Avengers in a
Yeah,
way.
like-
Because it's come afterwards. But if it was the only one, I don't think it would be as negatively received. I think people are comparing it to the Avengers, where it should just be compared to DC Comics, maybe.
It is a comparable because it is like a Justice League is the DC version of the Avengers for
Yeah, well, just
for
because that's
Marvel.
literally true doesn't mean that.
Yeah, but it's like in the same way, the Boss Baby franchise would be a lot better if the Godfather trilogy didn't exist. So people would
Yeah.
say, you know what, maybe Alec Baldwin as a baby isn't so bad. I've never ever seen
a good movie.
Vito Corleone.
Yeah, well, if good
Like-
movies didn't exist, this would be a masterpiece.
Right,
Okay, well,
yeah,
fucking
exactly.
Mank gets 10 Oscars. This should at least get 5 then.
Don't bring Mank into this. Mank is bad. We agree.
We
it's
agree
bad,
on that.
But
But they got 10 Oscars.
no, it's maybe.
Well,
Maybe
10
it might get one of them.
nominations.
It might get one of them if it's lucky. Okay, the other one was like, there's sometimes. It was annoying though when they did little catchphrases before doing like a Mortal Kombat 1v1 scene. I was just
Were there? I can't remember.
yeah.
any
There's one where
catchphrases.
he goes, "Leave her for me. She's mine." It's just a Wonder Woman.
Oh, yeah, and then she goes, I am nobody's. Yeah, I get it. I know. It's kind of, yeah, whatever.
corny, right?
It is corny.
Yeah. Okay.
And because Wonder Woman, especially Wonder Woman original, is not corny at all. It like
Yeah, I think she's one of the strongest character, probably the strongest one. I gotta say, maybe above Batman. The rest, not so much.
yeah. What do you? Okay, so let's
forgettable.
talk about the heroes, because I guess that's the crucial part of it. The characters.
Yeah.
So who do you like? Who do you dislike?
Well, yeah, I think Wonder Woman's been set, and she's, despite being played by someone who's maybe not super talented as an actress, she still has enough on-screen presence to really deliver her role pretty well.
Yeah.
Ben Affleck's suitable as Batman, and I think that's the extent of it. There's a very good cast.
So you're not into Henry Cavill as Superman?
Oh, I mean, he's really not in the movie enough to comment.
Yeah, well,
And
that's one thing that we should mention, I suppose. And
Yeah.
and I think we can just kind of not worry about spoilers as much because this is a 2017 movie, kind of the director's cut of a 2017 movie. I mean, Henry Cavill, Superman doesn't show up until the last fifth of the movie. Like a very small portion of the movie has Superman, which was super disappointing to me.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to come back within like 20 minutes
So
and
you're
then be part
saying
of the Justice League.
He's more like a super disappointment.
That's exactly what I
Superman.
said.
Yeah, I heard that. But he's like the same.
Did you like Cyborg?
catchphrases?
I like Cyborg.
He's like a wind-up doll that just says, "I'm very disappointed. You shouldn't have done that." And that's like,
Yeah,
it's
a
like,
little bit.
he's just saying little doll phrases.
I felt that all the characters in this movie were underserved to some degree. I think it felt like 4 movies rolled into one, and I think this is a fault of DC more than it is a fault of the filmmakers involved. I think that they wanted to fast track the Justice League, and rather than, I feel like Cyborg should have had his own movie first, Flash should have had his own movie first, Aquaman should have had his own movie first. But as it stands, it's kind of like, you have Batman vs Superman, you have Superman have Man of Steel, and you have Wonder Woman, but then everybody else is introduced in this movie. And I thought I had missed stuff, but then on a Wikipedia examination, I hadn't missed anything. It was just literally Cyborg, Aquaman, Flash are all introduced in this movie, essentially.
Yeah, right. That's it. I think I was trying to remember that too, like the timeline for. But I mean, that's not unique to DC. I think Marvel had the same issue when they first had the Avengers and the Avengers.
They had Captain America, they had Thor, they had Iron Man.
They had those characters, but they also did have the corporate kind of cramping their creative style, and I think they really sorted that out.
That's right, because it, originally, especially in the first phase of Marvel, they were kind of homogenous. They stifled their directors, and that's why Edgar Wright left Ant-Man. And I wish we had got to see the Edgar Wright Ant-Man. But now, by the time they've got into this phase that they're in now, it feels like they are giving their directors much more sort of creative freedom.
Yeah, which is absolutely what they needed. Yeah, Thor Ragnarok's another one.
Black Panther,
and
because they were getting stale.
They were, and those sort of different colors, let's say, brought in different new strengths for the Avengers, and which was started with Civil War
and Thor as well. He was the worst character.
Yeah, really. Actually, no, you're right. I remember I watched Thor: Lost World, and then I watched Ragnarok, and they're two different characters.
They are 100%. In the original two Thor movies, he is a Shakespearean character. He's kind of like Hamlet or something. Yeah. And then in the third one, he's like a stoner guy, and he's like hilarious. You know, it is a completely different character.
They utilized Chris Hemsworth. They sort of shaped. Yeah, they shaped their characters to the actors. Like Rob Downey Jr. just sort of was Iron Man.
Yeah,
and then obviously the Captain America. This is another. Okay, so with Captain.
So we're talking about Marvel now.
But like with those heroes, they always felt like not too strong, and they're sort of, a lot of them could be defeated one-on-one quite easily. Like they were never really great. Like Captain America, like let's discuss him. He's got a shield, but he's not super good. He's just like, I can do this all day, human. But he's kind of human.
Yeah.
All these heroes, they're all way too OP. Like they're way too overpowered.
They just seem invincible.
They all seem way too good to ever fail. Yeah. And yet they do. And the reason they ever fail is because of character.
Yeah, like Flash's fail at the end where he kind of gets shot for not running fast enough to the guy seemed ridiculous, you know, because he can run faster than the speed of light and he gets shot by like some random stooge henchman.
They're all holding back until they really have to. And then they just, it's like, oh, come on. Like, they're like Superman as well. It's just like, they're all too, like, when would they ever lose? Whereas the Avengers are like, yeah, you know what? On a bad day, on a bad track,
because who is actually there's no Superman in Avengers. There's Iron Man, there's Thor, there's Captain America, but there's no Superman. And that's always been the problem with Superman, is that he's too powerful.
Yeah, but all the other characters too. Like Wonder Woman's really good at the start.
Batman is ridiculous. He is literally just a man.
Yeah,
and he's like jumping around like a superhero and punching people like a superhero. That is disappointing.
That's right. Well, okay, another thing, we'll keep going into the minuses. I got a lot. It's so cliche, this movie. There's so many scenes, so many lines are just from other movies that I've seen. I'm just like, I kept on thinking, that's from that movie. That's from this movie. I've seen this exact thing before. Like, what did you ever feel an emotional character to any of the father relationships that kept coming up?
Everybody lost their parents in this movie. That seemed to be a consistent theme throughout it. It was mainly around loss of family, but it didn't really hit.
Yeah, that's it. Like one noted one was Flash. Flash goes to his dad who's in jail. They do the hand thing.
Great to see Billy come up.
Imagine, I'd love to see a film where they just mock that trope where everyone's hands on the glass and everyone does it at the same time, because it's like every single jail movie, like talking to someone, it's a hand. It's just like, is that really what? I don't think I've ever heard of that outside of a movie. Like people doing that.
Yeah, I don't even know if they have the same. Is that even a real scene in life where they do the phone talk through the glass
with the hand,
or are they able to see each other? I don't know. I don't
normally just able to see each other, I think. Anyway, look, and then he's just like, please do me a favor, never see me, never come here again.
Yeah, that was
don't
dumb.
Follow your don't do this.
That seemed weird.
And then he comes in and says, I got a job, and he's just like, hey, my boy's got a job. Hey, everyone, my boy's got a job. Hey, it's just like, what the fuck?
That was a weird scene.
You don't mess with your kid like that. What the fuck's wrong with you? What? He doesn't get it. He doesn't get
and even
emotional
like
connection.
just that whole like exposition dialogue of why would I do a criminal justice degree? What? Because my father's in prison for the murder of my mother, which he didn't commit. And it's like that should have been a whole Flash movie, but they just did it in one line of dialogue, which was frustrating.
That was so much exposition. Like, what about when
there was a lot of exposition?
Wonder Woman, you are being held by the truth whip at the moment, and you have to tell me the truth. Remember,
we know that it's the lasso of truth. Everybody knows it's the lasso of truth.
Just fucking say the truth already. This is why it takes 3.5 hours. This movie, because they keep fucking filling it with exposition.
She had a sword though, which was good. She didn't have a sword in Wonder Woman 2 because it's too violent to have a sword.
3.5 hours, Ryan.
What
does it think it is? Lord of the Rings? Like, Lord of the Rings Extended Edition, they earn those hours.
No, they don't. No,
They do. Every single
Zack
scene.
Snyder doesn't, but also Lord of the Rings doesn't. It's not a good movie, the Extended Editions of Lord of the Rings. They're good if you
Forget extended. Just the normal Lord of the Rings.
No,
3 hours,
don't forget
20 minutes.
extended. Let's talk
3 hours,
about
20 minutes. Every scene is earned, and this is like they had to cut so much because they just needed it. Everything. Every minute counted.
Every scene is the theatrical version.
And the the extended edition. If you really love the Lord of the Rings, like me, and maybe all of you out there, not this guy in front of me.
I love Lord of the Rings.
He obviously doesn't.
I love Lord of the Rings. Don't get me wrong. I love Lord of the Rings. But if I'm going to watch a movie, if I'm like, hey, let's watch a movie with somebody who just watches movies, you choose the theatrical version every time.
Yeah, with someone who doesn't get movies. But if you want if you want to watch more Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, if you want to watch more Lord of the Rings. No,
more.
If you want to watch a good movie, though, like that's like enjoyable. Nobody enjoys a 4-hour Return of the King on a casual Saturday.
You're looking at him right now.
Yeah, you do.
Return of the King, 4 hours. Sit down. It'll be Sunday before you know it.
Any 4-hour movie, and this I think might appeal to DC fans in the same way.
Oh, seriously, where are you? Like, who is? Okay, I looked at the IMDb score. Who are the people giving
really
this
high,
10
isn't it? It's
out of 10? Who is giving this 10? Like, are you all idiots or something? Seriously, and the meta score is 55. Even that's too high. That's way too high. This is a 3. This movie is a 3. It is no higher than a 3. It's a 3. Sorry, we're getting to the ratings.
All right, is there any other negatives you want to get at? You've got a lot of notes.
Yes, we've got so much more.
All right, let's keep going.
Oh my God.
Hit me up with it, because I haven't really defended it much.
It's unimaginative. It's laborious. It's cliched. It's two-dimensional. It's lacking any humor, and the times that they try to put in humor it does not land at all. They don't allow the characters to sort of land their jokes because it's not set up to land, if it makes sense. The tone is just so black and white. It's better than its predecessor, meaning it's on a 2 out of 10. That's all.
What's his predecessor?
The other one.
Oh, I watched half an hour.
Justice League that I watched half an hour and walked out of. Well done. You got an extra point.
Were there any positives?
I just said the one with the little Lord of the Rings battle.
Scene.
That was a good scene.
That was exactly Lord of the Rings.
I don't think there's any other. I thought Wonder Woman is a good character. I like her on-screen time. I liked Aquaman a little bit because
I actually didn't like Aquaman.
I feel like
he's just not that good of an actor.
I like him, but I didn't like his he just keeps on doing catchphrases. But there are times where I was like, yes, more of him. But I've also watched the Aquaman movie and it was rubbish. So
was it? Yeah,
I don't want more of him. So. And Amber Heard's in it.
Was he bad in the Aquaman movie, or was just the Aquaman movie bad?
The Aquaman movie was pretty bad, and I think Jason Momoa kind of just doesn't really go.
He seems like he would be perfect for that, like hard drinking, like fuck you kind of dude, which he is. Obviously
I think he would be, honestly. But given to a good film, I don't know who directed Aquaman, but I think it's not good.
Okay. So all right. Well, I will say some of the positives of this movie. I mean, okay.
And then I want your score. And then
I'll give you my score.
I want to look into your eyes as you say the score, and I want to really know if that's your score.
Okay.
Because I know what you're going to say, and I just want
you know what I'm going to say?
I want you to say that score with conviction.
All right. Well, whatever score I do give it, it will be said with conviction. After some thought. I've been thinking about it this whole time, and it was a score that swayed throughout the movie. It was up, it was down. I was hoping for more. Look, I loved the look of the movie. I know you disagree with that, but I'm a fan of Zack Snyder. I'm a fan of his stylistic choices. I was a fan of the aspect ratio. I thought there were obviously some scenes that were just like superhero CGI nonsense, where it's like everything on screen is just computer generated. There's very little humanity left in it. And I thought, especially compared to Batman vs. Superman, it had a lot of CGI. That being said, I liked his stylistic choices. I thought the movie looked good for the most part. That's just a personal choice, you know?
Yeah. You just don't want to argue. That's what that means.
I liked moments. There were some great moments.
Let's have some.
Well, I mean, like the scene that you mentioned, I think we both wrote that down.
Yeah, I saw you write that down. I like that scene.
I like the Asian hero scene, but that should have been at the start. Oh, yeah, the first Wonder Woman scene where Wonder Woman was introduced. That should have been the first scene in Wonder Woman 2. That was so fucking awesome in the bank robbery where she comes in and she's running around the screen. It's hard to describe, but it was awesome. It was one of the best superhero scenes I've seen. I fucking loved that scene.
Really?
And
Okay.
the first hour, especially, the first of 4 hours was quite enjoyable. Look, I mean, for a 4-hour movie.
No, not for a 4-hour movie.
No.
For a movie.
It was a 4-hour movie.
No one told Zack Snyder this has to be 3 hours and 45. No one sat him down and said this has to happen. Like, he made this decision. This is part of his...
Most times I watch a movie that's longer than 2.5 hours, at some point I'm like, oh God, just please end. I'm so sick of this movie. And I didn't have that at all through this movie.
Really? I had that happen 3 times.
Yeah,
like it was 3 separate movies. And I was just like, is this the sequel over?
It didn't feel like 4 hours to me. It felt like it was too long. Like, they
4
didn't
days.
need 4 hours.
It felt like 4 days for me.
It didn't need 4 hours, but also I wasn't bothered by the 4 hours, which has to... But I wasn't bored.
You can't even commit to saying that, can you?
I wasn't
It's
bothered by the 4 hours.
You can't quite say those words out of your mouth because you know you definitely
I just had a little
were.
bit. I wasn't bothered by the 4 hours at all, and it just kind of felt like a normal length movie in the end. To me, is that a positive? that I didn't want to turn it off.
If
Maybe.
you were maybe a turtle from the Galapagos Islands and you had like 190 years to live, maybe this is a normal movie for you. I'm not that. I've only got I've only got so much longer in this world, and to spend 4 hours of that watching this, I think I've got less time now.
It drained you of life
Drained
force.
me of life, which is what the bad guys were doing. They won. The baddies
Steppenwolf
won.
was not a terrible villain.
He was. He was.
I didn't like that. It was
all
just
the
like
same.
darkness. We're bringing an eternity of darkness.
Okay, Ryan, here we go. I'm going to say a line. Guess which villain I'm being. I'm going to turn this world to ash and make it into darkness. And fucking all of them. They all fucking say that from all fucking Marvel. Like,
Yeah,
what
why is it
point
okay if Thanos says it, but not Steppenwolf?
Thanos is way better than that. Thanos, I didn't thought this bad Marvel hero, Marvel villains, definitely. Thanos wasn't one of them. Thanos was like, at the very end, maybe a bit bad, but like he sort of had like, your failure brought me back to you.
Yeah, he's fine. Like, I always thought Thanos was like a pretty dumb villain. Just like, oh, I want to. It's kind of one of those like really cheap versions of a complex hero. He's like, oh, he's got a reason for it. He thinks that the universe is overpopulated, so he's trying to do the right thing. Like, yeah, I guess. Are you really the good guy if you kill half of the universe?
But what are these? What are the reasons these guys want to destroy?
Darkness?
Exactly. Like, in darkness. It's just like, how does that help you?
Look, I think this is a comic book movie more so than any Marvel movie.
That's not. It
Like is if you're a comic book fan though. Like it's made for comic book fans.
It might not be. Maybe
I'm comparing this to comic book movies. I'm not comparing it to The Godfather.
Okay, but like maybe this sort of shines a light on like are comic books really feel like because
no, they're shit. That's why fuck Marvel.
DC. This is the one that
at least they're like this has blood and stuff in it. I mean, it's disappointing after Batman vs Superman, which is very serious about the superheroes.
There is gore. Yeah, that's a good point.
The gore is good, especially like I mean, you watch fucking
CGI
Marvel and people
movies.
die, but not really. Like they don't really see it. Like in Batman vs Superman, I mean, like I'm kind of looking at the entire Snyderverse. I mean, like people die in like 9/11 type scenarios, and it really has an effect on people when they blow up a city. It's not just like CGI spectacle; it means something to the characters. Not in this movie, admittedly.
Yeah, they turn it right back on up.
All right, final thoughts.
Yep.
We're at half now, so final thoughts.
Yeah, look, I'm 3. I'm at a 3. It's a 3 out of 10. I've said it. Unimaginative. It's not enjoyable for me. I know people will enjoy it. I don't know why they will, but somehow they will because they've bloody stormed onto IMDb and given that you just mashed that 10 rating like it's a fucking Domino's pizza order. and and it's not good cinema. It's not a good movie, and I understand, but it's not enjoyable too. I didn't enjoy any part of it.
Did you at least give it credit for trying to do something?
That's a good point. I like that. Like you said, Schneider has his own style. It's unique.
What he said is the only thing a director has is his vision. That's it. That is what makes a director.
You can tell that he's really put a lot of thought behind it, but that accounts for so much because, I mean, it's one of the things where you probably look at him and you go, maybe that's where you need a bit of editing. Maybe you need a bit of studio control.
Editing? 4 hours of pure.
This is why people don't get their own movies. Peter Jackson, when he wasn't like hampered by, let's say, the creative,
and George Lucas.
And George Lucas too, you get The Hobbit. This is what you get when you get no sort of creative...
No notes.
No notes, like just a bunch of yes men. That's it. It's 3 for me.
It's 3. Do you want to know what I think?
Yeah, say it. Say it real good.
I'm going to give Zack Snyder's Justice League a 6 out of 10.
Oh, I was expecting 7. The 6 is
I brought it down. Not during this, before we started talking, I was like, all right, it's probably a 6 at best. I think it gets an extra point because it's trying to do something different. So it could arguably be a 5. I really wanted it to be more. I'm a massive fan of Watchmen. Watchmen is a 9.5, maybe. I don't
disagree with that. Yeah.
I love 300 as well. I'm even a fan of Sucker Punch, and his Dawn of the Dead is also good. I'm a fan of Zack Snyder. I think he was hampered, even in this 4-hour cut, by the studio, whoever Chris Terrio is, who fucking wrote this movie. It's the writing that is the problem of this movie for me. I mean, I love the look of it. I like the individual characters. I just don't think they were given enough time, and some of the writing was bad, like that scene where they all have a line of dialogue one after the other. So that means we're going to have to do this. That's right, Batman. They all have a line of dialogue.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. So I think the screenplay let it down enormously. The actors did the best they could with it. I think Jason Momoa probably suffers the most. I really like Cyborg. I'm a massive fan of Cyborg, weirdly, out of all of them. I think Superman should have been brought in earlier. Henry Cavill is he's just not in the movie enough. And Batman, who was so good in Batman vs Superman, I love that version of Batman, the violent alcoholic. He becomes cruel over 20 years of fighting crime, starts branding people. He's taking pills, he's sleeping with anonymous women. That Batman is awesome, but he's just not in this movie. I just don't know why they didn't continue with that line of Batman.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That's right.
Yeah, he's
awesome.
Completely
Different Batman in this one. This one is just like
he's just goody. He's a goody Batman.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, I wanted to like the movie more. I don't think it's as bad as all that. And I think like when you compare it to some Marvel movies, like, I mean, if we're talking about unfucking imaginative, like, Jesus. I mean, Infinity War is far worse than this movie, in my opinion.
No way.
Yeah.
That's
Infinity War is like a
statement
4.
to finish on.
No. I mean, Endgame is great. Infinity War is trash. It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Fuck me.
Really? One of the worst movies?
No, that's an exaggeration. But it is bad.
I think you're just upset that I gave this movie.
No. I knew you would give it around that. I thought maybe a 4 at best. But I thought it could go as low as 2. And I wouldn't have blamed you. I can understand. I've given this movie more credit than it probably deserves because I'm a massive fan of Zack Snyder's style. Like, when you just like connect to an aesthetic.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. And it's like, for me, Chris Nolan, but I still was able to detach that from the latest film.
Oh, sorry, well, I can't detach,
No, like you can kind of just say, look, I'm enjoying it. Yeah.
Yeah, with Tenet, I'm a massive Christopher Nolan fan as well, but probably, I was able to, I'm not in the same, like, if he makes a bad movie, I'll just be like, yeah. And Tenet was, disappointing.
Disappointing, yeah. That's what I thought.
And there's the characters again. I mean, and that's the thing that it always comes back to with me is the characters. Characters are good, but they just, because they didn't have their own individual movies to already connect, they kind of all had to do too much in this movie to
explain too much, like you said.
Yeah, all the characters had to explain too much, and they couldn't just be themselves. And then, the Flash. It's like he's straight out of Marvel, and he could have fitted in perfectly in a Marvel movie. But
what's Silver Silver hair.
Quicksilver.
Quicksilver.
Oh yeah, I forget that he's even a thing.
Yeah, I hated him in that. It's just, but you didn't see that coming, then dies. Cool, man.
Cool, man.
You just died for that line, you know? Okay. Yeah, look, that's it.
We've gone a bit over time in the theme of the movie, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Zack Snyder, that was, I mean, that's it. That's it for episode 7. Snyder's Justice League. I mean, it's been a few years in the making. It's been an interesting journey. I like that it came out. I like that. Do I like it that the fans were able to force the studio to release I mean, I'm always a fan of the director's vision, I think, you know, of getting that pure, unadulterated, you know, I mean, apart from the screenplay version of the director's vision.
Of what you want. Yeah, that's right.
So I'm positive on that front. I'm glad it exists because, I mean, the Joss Whedon, like, edited Marvel-esque version is the opposite of what I wanted. I mean, I like that DC and Marvel are existing in this world that we live in, that they are competing against each other in different ways. You know, you got the Joker versus, you know, Iron Man 3 or whatever. You know, like, I mean, that's harsh to Marvel. What's a good Marvel? Thor Ragnarok versus the Joker. Like, there's completely opposite movies. And if we are going to be stuck with superhero movies just constantly barraging our senses every 3 months, I'm glad that there's at least a dichotomy there where we get this darker, more realistic version, even though Snyder's Justice League was not necessarily that. The universe itself is, and that final scene where the world is post-apocalyptic Superman, that's kind of what I'm more looking forward to, and the blood and the gore and the really serious take on the mythology of, you know, Superman being Jesus, you know, Batman versus, you know, man versus God, that kind of thing. I like that that's there for us. And, you know, maybe DC it is just their sort of standalone movies like Joker, Batman, even the new Suicide Squad, although I think that is part of the extended universe. You know, these kind of different styles if we are to be stuck with superhero movies. Because honestly, I mean, I don't know if it's been clear so far, but I'm not a fan of the superhero genre necessarily.
Fair enough.
But yeah, that's it. Any final thoughts?
No, just that you're an idiot. Just had to get that in there. This is what people come for. It's just like, you better start believing in argument stories. You're in one.
I did give it double your score. So yeah, look, I'm an idiot. You're a cynical fuck.
Cynical old fuck.
That's it. That's it for episode 7 of The Hack and the Fraud. This was a good one. I enjoyed this one, Nico. Thanks for the chat as always. And look, we'll be back next week. We're going to see Nomadland. So we're going to see a real fucking movie. Enough of this superhero nonsense. We're going to see Nomadland starring the ineffable Frances McDormand. I'm really looking forward to that one. So look, we'll see you next week. Nick, I don't know, did you have a catchphrase for this week?
No.
Nice one. I like that one. All right, thank you for joining us. Once again, we'll see you next week for Nomadland on The Hack and the Fraud.
Take care.
Bye for now.